Welcome to You Matter in Business. Your hosts today are Ariel, me, and Miriam.
Your heart, your brand story, and your success, because you matter in your business.
Hi, and welcome back to You Matter in Business podcast. Hi, Ariel. How are you?
I am doing wonderful, and I am super excited about our guest today.
Yeah, me too. So I'm really happy to introduce you to our guest. So this is Nicole Smith. Hi, Nicole. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you. So, Nicole, instead of me doing it really amateurishly, I wonder if you would possibly like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and your background.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me first. Hello, Ariel. Nice to see you again. I am Nicole F. Smith, and I always put the F in there because you Google Nicole Smith, I don't know who you're going to get. So if you say Nicole F. Smith, you will definitely get me. I am the driving force of JMS Creative Leadership Solutions, and we are a leadership development and coaching practice. But what makes us unique is that we stand on the foundation of emotional intelligence. So yes, we do things like conflict, resolution, communication skills, and so forth, but it's under the umbrella of emotional intelligence because I do feel that once you maximize your emotional intelligence, you can master anything, right? And so we do that. So I don't necessarily like to say I'm a quote life coach because I'm still going through life myself. And I may make a stumble or a fumble or two, so please give me some grace. But what I like to do is just help people show up and lead, not just others, but themselves. We're so worried about leading others that we forget that we're also in that equation as well. So how are you showing up? I've been doing emotional intelligence for about 20 years, but I always say 20 years is when I had that, I don't say rock bottom, but that, oh my goodness, there has to be something better out there in regards to the workplace behavior. And I realized it stemmed it all the way back, my emotional narrative, to when I was a child, and I didn't even know it. So that led me to me getting my psychology degree. So I've always been into some type of human behaviorism and how people play in the workplace. And so I just, through learning and development, leadership development, I just took all of that talent management and decided to jump in and be a crazy entrepreneur and see how I can help organizations as well as individuals be able to show up and lead.
Fabulous. Well, that's much better than I could have done it. So well done. Thank you.
Been doing it for a while.
Let's talk. So most of our listeners they're predominantly women.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them won't have had as much of a grounding in what EQ, emotional intelligence, actually is. So perhaps could you give us just a potted? I mean, this is huge. I mean, it's a huge subject. If you've been doing it for 20 years, it's massive. So give us a kind of potted introduction to what EQ is for those of our listeners that aren't experts.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, you can go out there and Google it, but you're going to get a very generic definition to where you say, okay, now what? What do I do with this? I always say, okay, emotional intelligence, and you'll hear it as EQ, which is emotional quotient. You'll also hear it as EI, which is, of course, is the acronym for emotional intelligence. And I like to say it's where you recognize and understand your emotions and manage your behavior with how those emotions come to you, right? You're being a little intentional with how you move. But also, too, it's understanding or recognizing and understanding and influencing others. And a lot of people want to say manage others, and that's where we get frustrated. That is where it all goes downhill from there because we're trying to manage other people. I always say you can't manage anybody, folks. You have to be able to manage yourself. And through you managing yourself and you showing up and responding appropriately, you then influence others to do the same. And I like to say, as you maximize your emotional intelligence, you then gain a keen sense of social intelligence to where you can kind of predict how other people are going to behave and move, especially in the workplace. I like to call it a little secret talent you gained in regards to maximizing your EQ. There's a lot of other outcomes that come from maximizing your EQ, but that one, I like to say people like that magic trick. So, but yeah, so that's a in the box definition of emotional intelligence. Yes.
Okay. I love it. Thank you for that. That's really good.
I think that's
really
one
good
of
introduction.
best explanations I've heard, by the way. So that was very good. I liked that.
And as we talk more, I'll tell you why I've dug a little bit deeper, because since we're all women here, emotional intelligence wasn't like something that was talked about for us.
No.
So,
well, that was my next question, actually, Nicole. My goodness, you're good at this. Okay, so what I was going to say is, so my question is, how do you see women's approach to emotional intelligence differing from men's?
Yes. So, of course, there's research out there that shows whether we're better in self-awareness or social awareness and so forth. There's all that research out there. And I have to say that men, you're catching up. You're catching up.
Hallelujah.
I know, right? Hopefully one day before I go to glory, right? But yes, for women, this is where I say the godfathers, as they say, of emotional intelligence, we know who they are. You can Google them. They have studied and researched emotional intelligence based on a white man's perspective in the professional workspace, which means they're using it for success and sometimes manipulate it for success. Because we have to remember the workplace 100 years ago, and I say 100 years ago, Henry Ford, manufacturing cars and so forth, that's when human resources and employees were research, right? But even at that time, it was just men in the workplace, and it was just white men in the workplace. The workplace was not designed for us as women and also to people of color. So here we are 100 years later with emotional intelligence. And now I have researched it to where I help those that are not white men. You also use EQ for success because we've been using it so much for survival.
Okay.
Yes. So when you think about social intelligence, we are high in that area because naturally we spend about 25% of our time trying to fit in any situation that we're in. Imagine as a woman, we're walking into a boardroom, a conference room, and it's just all men. So we're spending a lot of our time trying to fit in. We're scanning the room going, oh my gosh, who am I going to sit next to? Which chair? Do I even need to sit at the table? Is sometimes that question. Do I need to sit on the outskirts? Right. Yeah. So here we are as women, 25%. Okay. And as you stated, Miriam, the imposter syndrome, so forth is setting in. It goes even higher. So how can we mitigate that feeling of not belonging, right? And now heighten our social intelligence through more self-discovery, through emotional mastery, because they say us women are very emotional. I can get that really quick though, but that we're more emotional, but also to understanding how we can use emotional intelligence for success. But what does that look like? The main goal is relationship building. And how can we as women really maximize that goal and stop swallowing the items of oppression that we have swallowed and really maximize our emotional intelligence and basically say this cliche, hey, if he can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
And not use it for manipulation, but use it for that success and lower that feeling of I don't fit in and how we're using EQ. So basically, yes, so what I'm saying is we're going to use it like white men. No, but we're going to.
You're going to use it smarter.
Yeah, we're going to use it.
Sorry.
We're going to use it smarter. But what's different about me as well is I just don't give you like these cute little strategies that you will see in some EQ books. I actually give you real-time things, real-time items that you can use, even down to prompts like lines. What can you say when you're in situations to where it automatically comes to the top of your mind versus overthinking it and wishing you would have said it as now you're cooking dinner at night. You're replaying that.
I should have said that.
Yeah. So I actually give real-time advice in regards to how to use EQ and help people understand it's more than just about, quote, emotions.
Okay, so do that for us today then, if you don't mind. So we talk a lot about women with imposter syndrome, and you've already mentioned that a lot. So let's help out a couple of our listeners there. Let's see if we can give them, so when they're, as you say, walking into a room and it's dominated by men or dominated by people that they feel maybe intimidated by, or that they feel that they shouldn't have a seat at that table, or that they're not good enough to have a seat at the table. So how does EQ help them walk into that room with that confidence to know that they should be there? They should have a place at that table, and that that they're able to contribute as much as anybody else. So tell us give us a couple of ways that they can embrace EQ to for those situations.
Absolutely. So as you gain a rise in your emotional intelligence, one of the main things it does help you with is reignite your confidence. And I say reignite because your confidence was probably always there. It just somehow, what was that turning point that made the flame go out, right? So you have that confidence, but also too, it helps you speak with clarity, your communication clarity, because this is where I say emotional intelligence isn't about skipping through the daisies. You can be firm, direct, and assertive to still get your point across, to still get the problem solved and the decision made. So I have a perfect example. And when I say real time, I always use my real life experiences. So I have walked into a room and I was part of I guess what they call the executive team. And I walked in and there were a variety of levels in the organization there, just to give people a view of the hierarchy, how it was holding right at that time. So I walked into the room and I was the only woman of color on the executive team. So I walked into the room, sat down, and my executive director looked at me and said, Nicole, do you think you could take notes?
Oh, I hate it when they do that.
And I said, first of all, it was all the air bubbles that came in my head first of like, number one, I hate taking notes, even from myself. That was the first thing I said, because like those notes were going to be, illegible altogether. And then two, why are you asking me? It was the second thing. Of course, watch your body language, right? Because us women like to, express ourselves with our faces, raising our eyebrows and so forth. Also, to watch your tone. Okay. So I said to him, I said, I would love to take notes because that will just help me understand the subject that we're speaking about. However, I do feel like there's some newer employees or some more junior employees that would really benefit from taking these notes down and really be able to understand not only the organization and what we're trying to do, but the subject that we're speaking about.
I love that.
And I said just that. And he looked at me and he said, oh, okay, because there was a more junior employee that was in there that could be taking notes. He was part of the marketing team. And I said, yeah, John can take notes. Yeah, he can do that because probably he just graduated from college and he knows exactly how to take notes right now. Either way, it was like, why was I taking notes? But also, too, women can use that example in regards to when you walk in and you're the only woman in the room, right? It's, why did you ask me to take notes? I think that we should allow someone else that's maybe new to this department or new to this meeting or so forth to be able to take notes, because we all know when you write things down, it works better in the brain. There's so many ways that you can word that. But also, too, another example is if you feel that you're always being talked over. That happened to me all the time. People just wanted to interject, men and women. And people say a lot of men do it, but women do it as well. Because I have a woman that was leading at another organization that I was at. She was my leadership, and she always interrupted me all the time. And people, what they do, your first response is to what? Sit back, fold your arms, and withdraw. And not say anything, because in your mind, you're thinking, oh, well, you really don't want to hear what I have to say. No, I want you to sit up straight. I want you to lean in. And when someone keeps interrupting you, because you do know people interrupt because sometimes they're just passionate about what they want to say. Give people grace in that, right? But if it becomes a habit, because people have to understand the way you behave is a habit. It becomes a habit. So now here you have somebody keep interrupting you and you can look at them and say, I love the passion that you're giving here. However, if you just let me finish my sentence, that might help you in regards to what you're about to say or the question you're about to ask. Thank you. And now keep going. But you see, in the very beginning, I started with a little bit of flattery because I don't want to assume they're being rude. I'm just going to say, okay, I love your passion here. And it's kind of pausing to see, was that not passion or is that really you being rude? Right? And then saying, just let me finish my sentence, because also, too, we're bringing it to the surface level. We're bringing it to their conscious level, because sometimes they don't even know consciously that they're doing it.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't realize that they're doing it.
So it's like, oh, and then they'll probably say, oh, I'm sorry. but I actually have seen meetings where somebody goes, no, 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 I'm interrupting because I don't like what you're saying. Oh, you don't like what I'm saying? Well, then fine. I have said, let me know when you want me to provide input. And I've sat back. Because now what you're doing is you're calling it to everyone's attention that John or Jane doesn't like what I'm saying for some reason. And so now everybody take note. And that's just how I've done it. And it's worked.
Mhm. So it's kind of drawing it to their attention without being rude about it, but also being assertive about it and making them know very clearly that you're not going to be walked over and that yeah. I like it.
Assertiveness is a competency of emotional intelligence. It's actually in one of my first workbooks that I have, because we talk about certain competencies that you should have already under your belt as you begin walking the journey of emotional intelligence. And assertiveness is one of them. And we tend to mix up assertiveness with aggressiveness. And aggressiveness is where now you're being manipulative to gain what you desire, versus assertive, just firmly stating what you see in your opinion, but you're not being manipulative, which is a trigger for people now and how they're going to respond.
Assertiveness is something. Sorry. Assertiveness is very much something that you can learn. I think almost you can do it in the mirror as well, and that helps. I think to kind of so that you can see what the other person is seeing in your face, so that you can practice that body language, those facial expressions before you go out in the world and do it. So you're giving them some really good words and some really good techniques in terms of a bit of flattery to start with, assuming that they don't realize that they're doing it to start with almost, but then so practice it. So practice those sentences before you go into all those situations. And the more you practice it, the easier it is when you are actually in those real life situations.
Yes. And I tell people all the time, will your hands feel sweaty? Will your heart palpitate? Will you feel like, oh my God, I'm about to say something that just is going to rock this, world? Yes, you will feel that way. And then, however, when you say it, and at the end, it works out how you desired, you're going to be like, ooh, go girl. Yeah, I did that. Yeah, that's where it's going to start feeling normal for you. And I always say, here's a little asterisk. Someone will come up to you and say, great job. Because it's what they were thinking. And now you said it. Yeah. And they're going to say, good job.
Good job.
Just take a moment for a slight interruption. We wanted to share some exciting news.
Exceptional women professionals often struggle to communicate their expertise. Rediscover, refine, rebrand women's retreats provide a transformative, intimate experience that help clarify your unique identity, so you are self-confident and courageous, stand out in your industry, and enjoy effective marketing.
Join us on one of these retreats. Go to arielfaith.com and choose your date that fits your schedule. Reserve your exclusive spot with a simple deposit, and then enjoy tailored planning tips and details from us to get ready for this inspiring experience. In the meantime, if you can like, share, and comment on this podcast, we'd appreciate the love. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So building on from that, then, how do you recommend that women deal with difficult workplace conversations or negotiations?
That's a good question. So how to deal with just difficult conversations in general, which negotiation falls into that?
Yeah.
This is where I say self-discovery is key. I need you to understand how you feel in those type of situations. For instance, why do you not like difficult conversations? Like, let's go back to that emotional blueprint. Let's go back to that emotional narrative. Why don't you like difficult conversation? Is it because when you were growing up, you didn't have a voice, and whenever you approached a difficult conversation with whomever, your friends, your parents, or whatever, you felt like you got knocked down a lot? Well, now here you are in adulthood, and you don't even approach difficult conversations. You shy away. Or is it that you just don't feel you're good at voicing, communication, using the right words? Okay, that's where that self-discovery comes in with this. But also, too, one of the main pieces I always say when you go into a difficult conversation and have any type of negotiating who's going to win in this, right? Is it going to be a win-win, or negotiating a job or promotion, whatever it may be, is understanding what's at stake here. Meaning, if you're going in, and I'm going to use negotiation because I just did a panel about this last week about negotiation and EQ, is what about the company? What about the organization do you think they will be able to give up or be able to give you? So understanding what's at stake here, meaning you don't just go in and say, hey, I want a $20,000 raise. Okay. What are your bullet points behind that? Why do you think you need to have this? Do you think the organization is in a good spot to be able to give you a $20,000 raise? So there's a lot of things you need to know in the background, but this is where that self-discovery comes in, and that social intelligence, that social awareness. But what's also key here is know who you're going in and talking to. Know who you're going in and having that difficult conversation with. How are they going to respond? Like, do you know them that well enough to know that they're going to respond a certain way? Do you not know them at all? Well, then go ask somebody. Ariel, I'm about to go talk to Miriam. About a difficult topic. Do you know how she handles sometimes these type of situations?
I like that.
Yeah, if you trust Ariel enough to where she's not going to go now run to Miriam, but get to know the situation at hand, get to know the environment that you're about to walk into. Have you scripted your conversation? What are you going to say? What do you think they're going to say back? How are you going to respond to that? Because it helps you stay within those guardrails, because in difficult conversation, where it becomes difficult is when we go out of those guardrails. And we feel we're always speaking to creatures of logic, and we're speaking to creatures of emotion. And so understanding all that's at play there before you just run in and want to have a difficult conversation, the difficult conversation, you'll find out, might turn into healthy conflict. Okay. And you might see that, yes, some sacrifices might be given up in that difficult conversation, but hopefully you both will win something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that answer, thank you for that, Nicole. That was really, I think, really useful. I certainly found it useful. But so in that answer there, you encompassed all of the four kind of elements of emotional intelligence, EQ. So it was the self-awareness. Although you don't call it self-awareness, you call it self-discovery. Is it different?
Yeah, it might. Well, I have my own framework called EQ Impact, and I talk about self-discovery, because to become self-aware, you have to self-discover. It's not just about self-awareness. It's like there's a lot of people out there that think they are self-aware, and really, in essence, population, only about 15% of us are really self-aware of how we are, how we move, how we're going to react, and so forth. I feel like through intense self-discovery, where, my friends, sometimes it will be painful. It will hurt. You're going to hear feedback about yourself that you're just like, really? That type of thing. And I feel like we all have to go through those moments, and that's through self-discovery. And then I call it emotional mastery, because that encompasses regulation. How do you respond? Why do you react that way? Stems from self-discovery, social intelligence, social awareness, and then relationship building. But the way I do it is the foundation, the toolkit, the bridge to the goal of relationship building, because the whole essence of emotional intelligence is relationship building, because we have to be with other people. We have to be in relationships with other people, whether they're tactical or whether they're intimate. You have to have relationships with others. So yeah, I try to hit on all four, but sometimes there are some that are more important than others at certain times. Yeah.
You almost state it almost as it's a journey, whereas some of the other books that I've read on emotional intelligence, very much, self-awareness, is that the final thing is, either you are or you aren't. But the way that you're talking about it is like it's a discovery that you can continue to develop and learn as you're going through life and master it. You might never completely master it, but because you're always learning and there's always different situations.
Yeah, and that's just it. There's always different situations, meaning I didn't know how I would truly feel and this is my example for me personally. I did not know how I would truly feel with the changing of the guards in our administration here in the United States back in July, you know. And then here comes November, it hits. Okay, now here we are sitting in March, and I'm going, wow, I do have emotions about this. I didn't know that me watching the news would just unleash a fire in me, in the morning or the evening. And yes, have I been through difficult times for me before? Yes, but now this is a different situation. So now this is like new self-discovery for me in regards to, do I say something? Where's my impulse control? Who can I talk to? I just want to go in the woods and scream. It's wow. I didn't realize it would hit my psyche so hard back in July, because otherwise I would have been preparing for it, right? But this is where I'm saying you always have a different situation. I don't ever say I've never felt this way before, but it is a different situation with different characters. So now how am I going to respond to this? Because I have children watching me, my two sons watching me. I have my clients watching me. I have, there's so much to play in there. So it is a journey, and you evolve every 7 to 10 years in your life.
Every 17 years.
Every 7 to 10 years.
7 to 10 years.
Yeah, it's like a snake sheds its skin. It's like you shed this skin, I guess, and you evolve every 7 to 10 years. I'm not the same person I was 20 years ago.
No.
And yeah, so it is an evolution. It is what I call a transformation. It is a journey, but also too, as I evolve, understanding the impact that evolution has on other people. It's not about self-awareness and knowing who I am, but understanding the impact that I now have on others. And so understanding the impact of my behavior, and that's a huge piece of self-discovery.
Yeah. Because we are all influencers, aren't we? Sorry, Ariel, you want to say something?
I normally interrupt her all the time, and I'm trying really hard to not interrupt her, speaking of being rude. But I did have a question about when you talk about self-discovery, one of the byproducts that I have noticed in my life is the more I understand myself, the more I can see other people.
Oh, that's good.
So tell us how that works from a...
That's such a good question. I'm just like, it's weird. It's like double-sided for me. It's like everyone's unique in their own different person. Then you get with a group of people and they're all the same. It's like, we're all the same. Yeah, as you learn more about yourself and how you respond to things and your likes and dislikes, your triggers and your biases, you do become more in tune to others. It gives you this heightened sense of empathy. It gives you a heightened sense of aerial grace. We talked about that, giving grace to others, but it heightens you in regards to seeing. It's like you truly see other people for more than just what they're presenting right there. I always like to say you hear what they're saying, but you also can hear between the lines. And it is people are like, well, explain that. I'm like, you just have to be there to hear someone speaking and going, is that it? I'm sensing a little more, because what's happening, you're becoming more in tune, because you're now in tune to your body language, the way your body feels, your responses. It's now you can sense it in others. You can sense other people's energy. I think that's a better way of saying it. And you just become, we all like to people watch. And I always say, if you just sit back and watch people, you can like literally predict where they're going to move and how they're communicating with each other. I mean, I've literally sat there with friends and said, don't do that. That's not going to go well. Because it's just because I know it's going to bother me. So I know it's going to bother somebody else, or that's going to make them happy. Go for it. And I know it's going to make them happy. It's a weird thing, because I like to say you're unique. But in essence, I feel like we have pockets of people that are the same in regards to how they move. And this is where that old cliche statement of find your people, find your tribe. You literally, and now at the big age of 50 that I'm going on in 2 weeks, you find your tribe, you find the people that give you the energy that just feeds your soul, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you can almost walk in a room and
Yeah.
you find them. Like Miriam is a perfect example. We walked into a chambers meeting and it was just like instant. We
It's
were on
because
the
we were
same
shoe
page.
twins, Nicole. We were shoe twins. Yeah. We went over to
the together too as shoes.
exactly the same pair of shoes on when we first met.
Wow, that is nice. Women are always attracted to me because my short haircut. It's either because they want to cut their hair and they think I'm the bravest person on earth who has cut their hair. I cut my hair when I was 16, so it was a long time ago. Or they already have short hair, so it's like short hair, don't care. It's like, yay, that's us. That's usually what attracts people to me, and then I feel just short hair gives people a little bit of sass.
I just think you're completely beautiful.
Yeah,
so
it's just that. Short hair gives you sass.
And I think maybe short hair might be the way to go. Maybe then I wouldn't have to. You look as though you do look as if that you've spent loads of time trying to look that good with your hair.
Well, I appreciate it. I just wake up in the morning and just lick my fingers and
yeah, you see, that's what I need you to hear. I need to have my hair cut short so I don't have to spend loads of time on it. I'm just going to.
It's so interesting. I have a girl she's from Honduras. She's beautiful. She had long black hair, and she just recently cut it to where it's like one side is short, the other side's coming down, and it is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, she is on fire, right? But she's like, I miss my long hair. And this just shows you how things that we do become our identity. And her hair was her identity because she had beautiful hair. I had long hair too. My grandmother's from Panama. I had long black hair. But now it's like, yeah, maybe now it's my identity. I couldn't see myself with long hair, but she is literally like, I'm going to buy a wig. I need long hair. And I'm like, oh my God, don't do that.
And I have to say, usually, Nicole, we don't send out the videos with our podcast. We just do the sound. So now they're going to have to visualize just how beautiful you are with amazing short hair.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm just going to ask one final question, if that's okay, in this episode, just to kind of wrap this one up. So how can women leaders identify when they're self-sabotaging their own leadership potential? And what would be your advice to them, your approach to breaking those patterns? If that's okay.
Call me at effortlessly.com. But no, this is where I say EQ, emotional intelligence, does play a big part because, like in my group coaching program, we talk about understanding your emotional blueprint, your emotional narrative. When you're self-sabotaging, that is coming way deeper than just yesterday, right? It's what happened? Why do you feel you're not good enough? For example, going back to teenage years, I made a 95 on a math test. Math was challenging for me. I made a 95 on a math test. I come in and I tell my dad, who was military, Air Force, right? And I said, Dad, I made a 95 on my test. He says, good. Why didn't you make 100? And here I go going, well, see, everybody, and I started giving all these excuses. Today looking back, and him and I have talked about this. Today looking back, I'm like, I didn't make 100 because I made a 95. Just, but I was 13 then, right? But yeah, thinking back to what exactly made you feel small, right? And trying to understand why you're still protecting that little girl, right? Why are you still not showing up in a position or a role that you desire to be? And I always say men will apply for jobs and they're only 50% qualified. They just go for it, right? Women, we have to be 110% qualified before we even think about putting in an application for that role. But
then you're overqualified.
And then you're overqualified, right? Where we're about to go now, right? But it's thinking about those limiting beliefs. This is where I talk about self-discovery. Where are those limiting beliefs coming from? Why do you think you're not good enough? So like one of the bullets can say, you have to present in front of C-suite leadership every quarter, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not good at speaking. Do you talk during the day? Yes. Well, then you're good at speaking. Have you ever been dinged for your communication skills? No. Well, then you're good at speaking. Oh, you're talking about speaking in front of people, like lots of people. Okay, where is that coming from? Well, it's usually fear of criticism. You don't want to be told you're wrong or incorrect about something. You know what? I'm right at least 2 times in one day, and I'm rarely wrong. So, but I reframe it. I would tell women to reframe it and say, you know what? I've never really spoken in front of a lot of people, but I speak in front of my team and I'm very good at it. So I'm sure I can learn more in regards to polishing my speaking skills, period, full stop. But it's what is stopping you? Fear of success, fear of criticism, fear of being wrong. Where is this fear coming from? And why do you have this fear? Because when you were born, you only had a fear of falling. Now you have all these other fears that are settled in. And like I said, why are you swallowing all that oppression that people have placed on you? So what I do in coaching is I just go through and ask these questions. But since they're listening to me, I now have asked you those questions on this episode, and I want you to write them down. And who has told you you are not good at these? And I can tell you that answer right now. You. You've told yourself you're not good at these. Why are you telling yourself you're not good at something? Would you tell the woman next to you that? Would you tell your friends that they're not good at something, so they shouldn't do it? Would you tell them that? No. So why are you telling yourself that? So they need to reframe those limiting beliefs, understanding where those fears come from. All right. And this is why I said to have an accountability partner. If you're not too sure, go ask somebody.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a time that you saw that I was good at this? Whatever that requirement is for a role you want to advance to, ask someone, can you give me a rating or can you tell me how well I communicate or whatever it may be to get that feedback? Because I can guarantee you are in your head, you are self-sabotaging yourself, and you're not going to get to the level you want to get to, and it's only going to be because of yourself.
Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for that, Nicole. I'm going to give you the
Wonderful.
opportunity now to shamelessly plug because you've got lots of things going on at the moment, haven't you? You've got a couple of books out and some ways that our listeners can follow you. So go on then, go ahead. Shamelessly plug Nicole F. Smith.
No shame. We don't shame on each other.
No, absolutely. So you can go to my website. It's thenicolefsmith.com, the as in THE, NicoleFSmith.com. There is a plethora of things on my website. But if you specifically, when you go to the website, it's going to ask you to sign up for my newsletter. I do send a newsletter out minimum of 2 weeks bi-weekly, but there's times I want to talk to you more than that. So I'll send some emails out. So you can sign up for my emails. If you're on LinkedIn, you can sign up for my newsletter, same thing. But if you go under services, I provide coaching, keynotes, and workshops. I do work with organizations. I also work one-on-one. So I have coaching programs that you can enroll in. It is the group you didn't even know you needed. Once you sign up, one-on-one coaching. I have VIP, 1-day VIP. So if you just want an intense 24 hours, or I don't want to say 24 hours, 8 hours, you can sign up. But also too, if you're someone that books keynotes, I do keynotes. So if you have an organization or an event you would like for me to get on the big stage, I can do that too. And also too, workshops where I come in and help teams level up or maximize their emotional intelligence as a group. I make it fun, it's engaging, and I never, ever make anyone feel not included because you think your EQ is low. You think it's low. But with that said, I have assessments for you to even find that out, your leadership style, as well as your emotional intelligence.
Fantastic. Well, that was great. Thank you ever so much, Nicole. I've learned an awful lot from that little conversation. And do you know what? Because we're going to invite Nicole back next week so that we can have another conversation with Nicole. And I think we're going to focus on leadership for next week. because not only is she an expert on EQ, she's also an expert on leadership as well. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. And just finally, just say thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
And
thank you very much.
So much. I enjoy speaking with you. This has been a pleasure.
See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success, because Ariel and I know you matter in your business.
Thank you for listening to the You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. We would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Photography and Enrich Life Coaching. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and Miriam and any guest speakers who share in our journey together.